A Bath County teen was pulled from a burning car Saturday night. Now his parents are asking for prayers.
Could action by the Kentucky legislature pave a way for added protections to make sure what happened at Trooper Ponder last week never happens again?
As 2 needle exchange programs begin in Kentucky, one lawmaker is calling for changes to the law recently passed to allow them. WKYT investigates his concerns.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 6.
Good evening. What should have been a fun night with friends ended with a teenager battling some critical injuries.
16-year-old Aaron Williams was badly injured in a crash while on his way to the homecoming dance in Bath County. He's now at UK Hospital while his family and friends pray for his recovery. WKYT's Victor Puente talked to his parents about the support they've received in our top story at 6.
The pieces of Aaron Williams' Camaro left on the side of US 60 show just how violent the crash that left him hospitalized was. Since then, the 16-year-old has been at UK's Chandler Hospital with his parents by his side.
It's day by day. The Lord has to touch him.
He's had hundreds of visitors at the hospital, and even more have reached out to his family.
I had 2,000 emails last night in one day, and I read each and every one of them because I want to see people praying for my son.
Williams says his son lost control in the rain, and when he overcorrected, he hit a tree. After Aaron went off the road, his parents say a driver in front of him turned around to see if he needed help. They say if that driver hadn't, their son wouldn't be alive.
The car was engulfed in flames. He knew it was going to blow, but he said he was going to get my boy out of there. And he kicked out the glass, drug him out, and then the car exploded.
They credit that man, Daniel Richmond, with saving their son. So far, they haven't visited the crash site and say they can't bring themselves to look at the car.
Our focus right now is my son walking out of that hospital.
For that to happen, Veronica Williams says they'll need a miracle. They're hoping the prayer vigil being held tonight at the Winchester First Church of God will bring them one.
I feel helpless.
It's heartbreaking. It's the lowest valley in my life. I've never been through a lower valley than this, and I want to start climbing out instead of going deeper.
In Lexington, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Williams tells us that a group also plans to hold a prayer vigil outside their home tonight.
A man is in jail accused of stealing $700,000 in pet medications. The Knox County, Tennessee Sheriff's Office says deputies caught 42-year-old Timothy Ross after a vet clinic break-in early Saturday morning. They say he's responsible for 4 vet clinic break-ins in Lexington, 1 in Nicholasville, and 2 in Richmond. In all, we're told that he's hit 3 dozen clinics in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia. Charges are pending against a second person. It's a proposal to protect state police. Kentucky House Speaker Greg Stumbo says he wants to sponsor legislation to add new safety features to the police cruisers.
It comes a week after Trooper Joseph Ponder was shot and killed while on duty. WKYT's Phil Pendleton is in Richmond, where police trainees and retired police say they support the idea. The story's new at 6.
We could learn a lot more about the proposal tomorrow when Trooper Ponder's father speaks to us from the state capitol in Frankfort. But the proposal is to install a bullet-resistant material on the windshields of state police cruisers. Trooper Joseph Cameron Ponder was killed last Sunday when police say the driver he was trying to help sped off. And when Ponder was behind him in his cruiser, the driver opened fire, killing Ponder.
Does any member wish to change or explain their vote?
Stumbo is proposing the possibility of retrofitting cruisers with a bullet-resistant laminate film. Stumbo says that might have changed the outcome in Ponder's case. The speaker says the idea has been suggested by both law enforcement trainees and retired personnel. Stumbo sent a letter to the Kentucky State Police Commissioner asking what the General Assembly could do to make sure the Kentucky State Police return home safely after each day shift. In Madison County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
We tried to ask state police about the proposal, but we were told those able to comment were out of town today. State Auditor Adam Edlin says there are nearly 3,100 untested rape kits in Kentucky, and he is pushing to change that. Today, Edlin released the findings of an audit he began in April. The audit found agencies aren't sending all their rape kits to the crime lab, and when they do, it takes 8 months on average to get test results. He said part of the problem is that more people are sending evidence from other crimes to the lab.
It's because the culture has changed. We have the CSI effect. People watch on television and go serve on juries and expect to see a forensic slam dunk in order to garner a guilty verdict.
Other problems include varying levels of training and unclear communication about how to handle rape kits. State police recently received a grant to process untested kits.
The case involving a man accused of his mother's murder is moving forward. A judge waves Jack Clemens' case to a grand jury during a hearing today. Clemens' mother, Shirley, was found dead in her Lexington home on River Park Circle back in July. Police arrested him after chasing him from Colorado to Kansas a few days later. He returned to Lexington earlier this month and pled not guilty. Fall begins this month, and it's coming in with some very pleasant weather out there.
WKYT Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey is here now with an early check of that forecast. Hi, Chris.
Hi, guys. Very nice out there. As you mentioned, low humidity. We've got the dry conditions, and those pleasant temperatures. Sure sounds a lot like fall to me. Mainly low 70s across southern and eastern Kentucky. Exception to that, Prestonsburg at 69 degrees right now because they have a little more in the way of clouds than what areas of central Kentucky have been seeing today. We're looking on that southeastern horizon now from Lexington, our Skycam, picking up the back edge of those clouds that continue to make their way across southern and eastern Kentucky, not producing any precipitation. You got to go east of the mountains now to pick up some rain, getting it as close as the West Virginia Panhandle and up into parts of Pennsylvania, and southward we go into the Carolinas with an area of low pressure. That same low pressure, though, is going to kind of meander its way across the east coast over the next several days. So if we're going to get some rain around here, guys, we got to watch the eastern sky, and we will do just that when I come back with a full forecast here in about 10 minutes.
The commute on Lexington's north side should be moving a little smoother this evening.
And that's because a new 2-mile section of Citation Boulevard linking Leestown Road and Georgetown Road opened at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Our Sam Smith was there as the first cars used the new section of road.
Drivers on the west side of town have a new road to use. The new section of Citation Boulevard is now open, connecting drivers from Leestown Road to Georgetown Road. State and city leaders were out here this afternoon to cut the ribbon on this completed 2.4-mile road project. They say there's a lot of potential for development in this area along this new road.
You know, we're standing next to lots of greenfield that is soon to be developed, we hope, into more restaurants, services for residents, dry cleaners, gas stations, banks.
Residents are happy to see this road project be completed. Folks on the west side of town now have a more direct way to get to the interstate.
The roads in this area are pretty small. Some of the back roads, like the roads that I travel on to get to my home from Leestown Road, are pretty narrow and difficult to navigate, kind of dangerous in a couple of spots. Now it's a 4-lane corridor, and we'll be much better, much faster, and much more organized, I hope, than what we've had to travel on in the past.
This was a joint effort between the city and the state, with the state contributing $25 million towards the project. The city added $300,000 that went towards traffic signals. In Lexington, Sam Smith, WKYT.
The Transportation Cabinet says there could be some lane closures as crews finish some minor work.
Lexington's Needle Exchange program entered its 3rd week last Friday. So far, the Lexington and Fayette County Health Department collected 915 used needles and has given out 386 clean ones. State lawmakers passed legislation allowing the exchanges earlier this year, but one senator is already questioning whether the law needs to be changed. WKYT investigative reporter Miranda Combs looks into the concerns.
We've heard horror stories of people using needles, sharing them, passing around the rooms. I mean, they don't care.
Kevin Blankenship knows the world of addiction. He lived in it for years.
An addict is going to use regardless.
I don't know. I don't care. They're bringing the needles in. It's like taking the unexploded munitions out of a minefield and getting rid of them.
Dr. Rice Leach's only concern is public health, saying Kentucky has the most cases of hepatitis C per capita in the country. Kentucky's needle exchange, he says, in time will bring that number down and control the threat of other bloodborne diseases.
We are statistically removing the risk of those diseases.
You really don't know what you're getting yourself into. You have no clue.
Blankenship's story follows what's becoming an all too common path.
And I found myself saying that I'll never do heroin. I just do the pills. It's safer.
Prescription pills to heroin to homelessness.
Soon after I started using needles was when I kind of had that realization where everything I lost everything.
I'm not pandering to anybody. I am taking risky material off the street to protect the people who live here.
The controversial program has been going on for 3 weeks now in Fayette County. A person brings in needles and can get up to 21 back at a time. The planning for this space has been going on since spring, just after legislation was passed allowing needle exchanges in Kentucky.
The idea of reach out, get them to come in, bring their dirty needles is working.
So far, the number of dirty needles coming into the health department has been much larger than the number of people. For instance, one person brought in more than 400.
One of the things the bill was intended to do is to cut down on needle sticks.
But State Senator Whitney Westerfield worries that's not happening in Louisville, where it's not required to bring in dirty needles to get clean ones.
So they're flooding the marketplace with these needles, and we're not getting all those back in.
Westerfield says the needle exchange legislation never laid out rules for how the program should run on purpose, but that may need to change.
I'll speak for myself. My intent was that there would be a one-for-one exchange at least, that there'd be some requirement that you bring a needle in order to walk back out the door with one.
A Louisville Health Department spokesperson says the gap of people getting and giving back needles is narrowing since their program started in June. They, like Fayette County, say their primary goal is to protect the public health, prevent needle sharing, and get addicts back in contact with the healthcare system. A possible start to recovery.
You're encouraging healthier use, and as those healthy habits begin to change, they move away from substance abuse into healthier living generally.
Even if they don't know it, it kind of gets them slowly, subliminally introduced. You know, they have signs up saying, you know, if you need help, call this number, or whatever it may be. They're made aware that they can ask for help at any time when they go there.
And Westerfield says when they designed the needle exchange, they didn't put restriction on it, figuring different areas of the state would want to handle it differently. However, he says some of his colleagues are now looking at adding more rules to the program.
It is very evident this entire topic of needle exchange is both tricky and very controversial.
Right. A lot of people feel like it's continuing to feed an addiction for these drug users. Even Westerfield said he had a hard time wrapping his head around it, but statistics show that it does, in fact, work, he says.
Brave of that young man to be public in your story and talk. I mean, he brings it home when you hear him.
He really does.
Miranda, thank you.
Up with the latest news on WKYT.com. Join the conversation on Twitter and become a part of the WKYT Facebook family.
Several people have to find a new place to stay because of a hit-and-run crash.
A car slammed into the old Lexington Pasta Company building on North Limestone about 1 this morning, sorry. The city condemned the building because of the damage, leaving 3 tenants in the apartments without a home for now. The business downstairs was closed for remodeling.
He said, when I reopen this, I get to have a larger window space. And I thought, yeah, that's great. You know, you got to make something good out of something like this.
Lexington police say the driver of the car disappeared after the crash. They tell us they were looking for the car after a drug-related call earlier in the night.